And let us start off. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Bharvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvimavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Tat Sat.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay. So we were on we had completed verse number 23, right? In the previous chapter, in the previous class. So we will chant now verse number 24. Sanjaya Uvacha Eva Mukto Rishikeshaha Gudakeshena Bharata Senayor Ubayor Madhye Thapayitva Rathottamam. I've just muted you all. And look at the words. Sanjay Ovacha. So obviously it's now Sanjay's turn to talk. What has happened so far? Krishna has been told by Arjuna to go and put the chariot in between the two armies. And so Krishna is busy doing that and Arjuna is not saying anything. So now Sanjaya is talking. So he says, that's why Sanjaya Ovacha. And Evam Uktaha. So the first two words is a compound one, Evam Ukto. You break it up into Evam Uktaha. Then Rishikesho can be broken into Rishikesha, Rishikeshaha, and Gudakeshena Bharata. Then the first word of the second line, Senoyor Ubayor Madhye, is broken into three words. Senayoho, that is Senayo plus Visarga. Ubayoho plus Visarga. So Ubayoho plus Visarga is Madhye. Senayoho Ubayoho Madhye. The Ra, as you will notice, has been dropped. If anybody is talking in the, please what they call mute your mics because you're disturbing the class. So Senayoho Ubayoho Madhye, then Sthapayitva Rathaha Uttamam. And now look at the words. Evam Uktaha. In this manner, Evam Uktaha Rishikeshaha Gudakeshena Bharata Senoyoho Ubhayoho Madhye Sthapayitva Rathotamam. Okay. So whoever is unmuting yourself, please do not unmute yourself because you're disturbing. Thank you. Okay. So Sanjay said, Sanjay is not reporting what has happened. What is he saying? He's saying that this chariot was placed by Krishna, Senoyoho Ubayoho, in the middle of both the armies. Evam Uktva, Rishikesha, having been spoken to in this manner, having been asked to put the chariot in the battlefield, Evam Uktvaha, Rishikesha Gudakeshena Bharata. So that literal meaning is Gudakesha, Arjuna, spoke to Rishikesha, that is to Krishna, asking him to put the chariot in the middle of the battlefield. And then the subject is not given here, so you have to say that Rishikesha Senoyoho Ubhayoho Madhye Ratha Sthapayatva. Krishna took the chariot in between both the armies and kept it there. Sthapayatva is to keep. So very simple, doesn't require too much explanation. So we'll go to the next verse. So please unmute yourself.
Sir, Gudakeshan, explain Gudakeshan.
We will come to that. So, Bhishma, this is verse number 25. Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan Samavetan Kuruniti So I'm just muting you all again. And again, I will request you that if you find that your mic is open, is unmuted, please do mute it because it will come in the recording also. And even if somebody wants to listen afterwards, you won't be able to listen properly. Okay, so the one word which you wanted to know was Gudakeshaha. So Gudakesha literally means the one who has what we call defeated tamas. Okay, Gudakesha literally means tamas. He has defeated tamas, which is sleep. So Gudakesha is the person who is the master of sleep, because tamas basically has what effect. Tamas, when tamas is predominant, what will happen is that you will go to sleep. And therefore Arjuna is called Gudakesha because Arjuna has mastered the art of not sleeping at night. And why was this necessary? If you know the Mahabharata. Why was it necessary for Arjuna to be able to not sleep at night? Ishaha is master. Gudaha is tamas, or in this case, sleep.
I think, sir, it was because when they went to the forest, it was then when he went for learning divine weapons, he had gone to prepare for the war. And that time he had to stay awake to get that learning for all the divine weapons from Shiva.
Well, actually, if you read the Mahabharata, you'll find that in many of these episodes, Arjuna was asked by the rishis to fight the Rakshasas, the demons. And demons are awake when? At night. And therefore, since Arjuna had to fight the demons at night, he had to master the art of sleep. He should be able to keep awake and fight when he wanted to. That is the background of why it's called Gudakesha, master of sleep, master of tamas basically. And philosophically, of course, it has a different meaning. Tamas is equivalent to what in philosophy?
Inertia.
Potential energy.
No, philosophy, saying. Vedanta.
Ajnana.
Ajnana. Tamas is ajnanam. And therefore, the person who masters tamas is the person who has got rid of his ajnana. That also is one possible explanation. Gudakesha. Okay. That is a good question. So that I should have explained the meaning of that word. Okay. Now we go back to the verse which we just chanted. So he says, Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha. Pramukhata means
निकाल दे उससे ना, वो ताकत खींच रहा है सारी उसकी.
one who has Galaxy A30. Will you please mute yourself?
हाँ, वो दो में फिर
The one who has Galaxy A30, there is some sound in your house and it is what you call disturbing us. So please do mute yourself. If you don't, I'll be forced to remove you from the class. Okay. So Pramukhataha means facing each other. So
One
Bhishma.
more is unmuted, like Indu something is also unmuted. So it might.
I can do one thing. I can remove the option for you to unmute yourself, which I've done. Okay. So now I'll let you mute. I'll let you talk after I unmute you. So now there'll be no disturbance. So Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha means facing Bhishma and Drona. So Bhishma cha Dronaha, in front of Bhishma and Drona. That first word Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha means that Arjuna and the chariot have been placed Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha in front of Bhishma and Drona. Okay. So look at the sentences. Rishikeshaha, that has to be supplied. Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha, in front of Bhishma and Drona. Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam. Mahikshitam are the rulers. Sarvesham, rulers of all. So Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha Sarvesham Mahikshitam. You are saying that the chariot was put in front of Bhishma and Drona, who are very great warriors, who are very great rulers, who are the rulers of all. And Uvacha, he said, Partha, Pasya etan samavetan kurun iti. So this is Krishna saying, hey Partha, hey Arjuna, I have kept this chariot in the battlefield in between the two armies as you requested. And Pasya, see, etan, see all these people who are what? Kurun, who are all Kauravas and Samavetan. They are all assembled here in the battlefield. So this is not this is not Arjuna talking. Okay, not Krishna talking. It is Sanjaya telling Dhritarashtra, because the whole thing comes under the is one verse number 24 and up to 27 is under the heading of Sanjaya Uvacha. So this is Sanjaya talking to Dhritarashtra. So it goes without saying that Krishna and Arjuna are busy. Arjuna is looking at the whole army, and Krishna is busy. He has kept the chariot in the middle of the two armies. So neither of them are speaking. And therefore, Sanjaya says, Uktaha evam Rishikeshaha. So having been spoken to in this manner, which means having been requested by Arjuna to put the chariot in between the two armies, Gudakeshaha. And Guda, as I said, means tamagunaha, dullness. Therefore, this person who is not a tamasic person, who has conquered his ignorance by knowledge, he is competent enough, right? So he has, what did he do? Senoyor ubhyor madhye ratham sthapayatva. He positioned the chariot between the two armies. And sarvesham mahikshitam pramukhataha ratham sthapayatva. He placed the chariot in front of the full army. And remember that army had lots of kings, just not one or two kings. So Mahikshita means king. Mahikshitaha, those who protect the earth. Mahi is the earth. Kshitaha is the one who protects from trouble. So Mahikshitaha, the king who protects his kingdom. So in front of them, this chariot was placed. And remember that Krishna plays some sort of mischief here, because he could have positioned the chariot anywhere. Right? He could have kept in front of Dronacharya, he could have kept in front of Karan, and Arjuna's blood would have boiled further. But no, he chose to put it in front of Bhishma and Dronacharya, who are both very revered people. They are both the grand, one is a grand teacher, one is a teacher, and one is a grand uncle. So he says, puts it there, and he says, hey Arjuna, Samavetan Kurun Pasya. So this is Sanjay is reporting that Krishna has told Arjuna this. Hey Arjuna, Samavetan Kurun Pasya. May you study or may you survey this entire army of Kauravas which have been assembled. Iti Uvacha. In this manner, Krishna told Arjuna. Okay. Now we will go to verse number 26. And I will just unmute you all so that. Now please unmute yourself. So verse number 26 we are chanting. Tatra pashyat sthitan partha
Tatra pashyat
Pitrunathah pitamahan Acharyan matulan bhatran Acharyan matulan bhratran Bhratran Putran pautran sakhim statha Okay, so again I've muted you all without an option of unmuting, okay, because the disturbance is a little bit extra. So I hope over a period of time you will all learn to mute yourselves. Anyway, so right now you don't have the option to mute, so please bear with me. When this verse is over, I will unmute you again. So this verse has to be, the breakup has to be Tatra Apashyata. So that first word, Tatra Pashyat Sthitan Partha, Tatra Apashyat Sthitan. 3 words. Tatra Apashyat Sthitan. Then Partha is okay. Then Pitrun. That Pitrunatha is broken into 2 words. Pitrun plus Atha plus Pitamahan. And then Acharyan Maturan. Acharyan Maturan. Bhratran. Putran. Pautran. Sakhi. Tatha. So that those complex 2 words are broken up. Acharyan, Maturan, Bhratran, Putran, Pautran, Sakhim, Tatha. Look at the words. Tatra. Tatra means there, where these 2 armies. Apashyat means to see. So that is to be carefully understood. Pashya means to see. Apasyat means to see also. It's not that it's not seeing. That has to be understood. Sthitan, those who are standing there, those who are established there. Partha, of course, is Arjuna, son of Pritha. Then Pitrun. Pitrun means the fathers. Pitr. Atha means then. Pita Mahan. Pita Mahan means grandfather. Mahapita. Pita is father, Mahapita is the great grandfather. Acharyan, teachers. Matran. Maturan is uncles. Bhratran, brothers. Putran is sons. Pautran is grandsons. So these distinctions in Putra, Pautra. Putra is sons, Pautra is grandsons. Sakhi is friends. And Tatha is and also. Okay, these are individual words. Now let's look at making it into a sentence, into an Anvaya. So this will be Athaha Partha Tatra Sthitan Apasyat. Ataha. Then Partha Arjuna Apasyat saw Tatra Sthitan, standing there. So Ataha Partha Tatra Sthitan Apasyat. Then Arjuna saw standing before him, standing there. What did he see? Pitrin, Pitamahan, Acharyan, Maturan, Bhratran, Putran, Pautram, Tatha Sakhi. This is just a definition of, this is just an enumeration of what all he saw. And this is continued in the next verse, which again we will chant. So please unmute yourself. Okay, we chant the 27th verse. Swashuran suhradashchaiva Senayorubhayorapi तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेय सर्वान् बन्धून् अवस्थितान्.
सर्वान् बन्धून् अवस्थितान्.
So, look at the words now. Swashuran. Okay, so Swashuran is what? Fathers-in-law. Then Suhrada, friends. So the breakup is Swashuran, Suhradaha, Cha, that Suhradas Chaiva has to be broken as Suhrad plus Cha plus Eva. So Swashuran is fine. Then Suhradaha, Cha Eva. Then Senayoho, Ubhayoho, Api. So Senayor, Ubhayor, Api is broken into Senayoho, Ubhayoho, Api. Tan Samikshya Sakaunteya is fine. Sarvan Bandhun Avasthitan. So let's look at these two words. It's a continuation of the previous verse where he was talking about Pitrun, Pitamaha, Nacharyan, Matrin, Bhatrin, etc. He's continuing. Swashuran, father-in-law, Sohrad, friends, Senayoho, Ubhayoho, Api. In the middle of both the armies. Then what did he see? Tan Samikshya. He saw all these people. He saw in the middle of the two armies. In the two armies, he saw. And Saha, that Kaunteya, Arjuna, Sarvan, all, Bandhun, relatives, Avasthitan, is standing or placed over there. So to understand properly, the first sentence here of this 27th verse, which is, you can see, consists of 3 verses actually, one of those aberrations, and 3 lines actually. So the first line has to be connected to the last line of verse number 26. And where he has said Acharyan, Matulan, Bhatrin, Putran, Pautran, Sakihi, so to add to that, Shashuran, Suhradaha, Chaevaha. All these people he saw. Senoyor, Ubayor, Madhya, Api, he saw. And both the sides. And then what? Saha Kaunteya, Tan Sarvan, Bandhun, Samikshya Avasthitan. Arjuna having seen Kaunteyaha. So remember here, Kaunteya is a subject case because now he is seeing. So Kaunteya, Samikshya, having seen what? Tan Sarvan Bandhun. All those relatives, Tan Sarvan Bandhun, all the relatives, Avasthitan, standing there. What did he do? That, okay. So now we have to again look at, let us once more go over it. There is a 26 and 27 has lots of words which we need to understand. So let me just go through each word and try to explain. Now we are talking about the explanation for 26 and 27 together. So Tatra Partha Apashyat. Arjuna saw there. Tatra means on the side of the Kauravas. And what did he see? He saw a lot of people. And then Sanjay gives the list. So he says Pitran. Pitran, you can understand, means father. Now, according to Dharma Shastra, I'm unmuting her because I would like a little response over here. But please do keep your mutes, your mics on mute unless you're actually talking. So I've unmuted you all. If you want to say something, you can unmute yourself. So here we're talking about Pitra. Pitra has basically means father. But according to Dharma Shastra, every individual has 5 fathers. 5 of them. Okay. So first one is Janita, the biological father, and who is normally called the father. The second one is Upaneta. Who is this? The one who gives you the sacred thread at the time of Upanayana. He is considered to be also another father. And this is if the person doing the Upanayana for you is somebody other than your natural father, then it is second father. Otherwise, both are together. The third is the Guru. He is also considered the father because during the Upanayanam ceremony, the Gayatri Upadesha is done. And those who have seen the traditional Gayatri, they will know that the person is covered with a silk cloth. And this silk cloth is traditionally the silk cloth with which you are covered is a symbolic representation of the womb of the mother. So it's supposed to be a second stint in the mother's womb. So the second Garbhavasa, they call it, when the person is a student in Gurukula. Because according to Shastra, when you are born, you are Prakrita Purusha. Prakrita Purusha means born with animalistic instincts. You are practically animal. Then when you enter the Gurukula and learn the Vedas, learn the difference between dharma, adharma, learn to lead a life based on dharma only, rejecting adharma and rejecting ragadvesha, not letting ragadvesha rule my life, not letting my life be led according to my instincts, but leading it according to Shastric injunctions. Then that person has got a new birth. He becomes a Samskrita Purusha instead of a Prakrita Purusha. So the person who enters the Gurukulam is a Prakrita Purusha, person having animal instincts, natural animal instincts. But the person coming out of the Gurukulam is a cultured human being, Samskrita Purusha. That is why it's called what? What is the other name given for the person who does this? Any idea? Okay, he's called Dvijaha, the twice born. The first birth is from the biological mother. The second birth is from the Gurukula. And therefore, in the Gurukula, the Gayatri is taken to be the mother. And the teacher, the Acharya, the Guru, is taken to be the father. So that is the third father. Then there is a fourth father, which is Annadata. So this is a peculiar case where a person has no access to food, so his parents are not there, his guru is not there. At that time, when you are hungry and you do not have anybody looking after you, anybody who gives you food keeps your life, saves your life. And therefore, he is supposed to be the fourth father, Annadata. And the fifth father is called Bhayatratru, the one who rescues you whenever your life is in danger. Whenever somebody protects you, that person is also called Bhayatratru. So now, why is all this important?
Bhayatratru, what he does?
It is the person who rescues you when you are in danger. So that is the fifth father. Now, why did I tell you all this? Why did I say that there are five fathers?
He in the verse he's used the word pitran, which means it's a plural.
Plural form. Okay, so that's what when he says, very good. So when Krishna says pitran, here are your fathers. That's what he means. That all these five fathers of yours, they are there. And pita mahaha, that is also plural. So if there are many fathers, there must be many grandfathers also. So that is also in plural. Then acharyan, again plural. Teachers in different fields. So you have teachers of Dharma Shastra, you have teacher of archery, warrior, the art of war is there. So Dronacharya is also there. Bhishma is also there. Then Matulan, uncles are there. Then Bhatrin, Kauravas are all brothers only. Then Putran, his own children. Then Pautran, his grandchildren. So remember, at the time of the war, Arjuna is supposed to be a grandfather. He is past 60, according to some report, some place where I've read that it's at 60 that he starts the war. And Shvashuran, of course, means the fathers-in-law. And Arjuna had many wives, so he had many fathers-in-law. And all these people, Senoyoho Ubhayo Api, they are standing on both sides of the army. Both the armies are being talked about because there are people in his army also, and there are people in the other army also. Okay. And Tan Samikshya Sa Kaunteya Sarvan Bandhun Avasthitan. So he saw all the bandhus standing in front of him. So bandhus normally means what? What is the meaning of bandhu?
Brother.
Friends.
Friends.
So literally,
Friends.
bandhu
Friends.
means no. Bandhu
Relatives.
is relatives.
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 It's relative, not friends. Okay. But bandhu has a very interesting derivation. What does the word bandh mean?
To be bonded.
Bind.
To be bound. So bandhu is the person towards whom you are bound by what? By raga,
By emotions.
by the bond of attachment. So that is the derivation of the word bandha. And that is why attachment is compared to a rope, because this attachment, it binds you with people. Whoever has attachment is bound. And the more you are bound, the more your freedom is lost. Because when you are bound, then your happiness is not determined by you alone. Your happiness is dependent upon the behavior of all the people with whom you are bound. And therefore they are called bandhus, bandavaha. Having seen all these people, samiksha means to see closely. Now this is the transformation over here. What happens when he saw their faces very closely? What happens when he realized that, these people are standing there and they have so much importance in his life? So that is why this 27th verse has the third line, to show that it's a point of transformation. So what happens in the third line? Look at the third line. Kripaya paraya vishtaha vishidan idam bravit. So kripaya paraya avishtaha. Avishtaha means what they call overcome. Avishtaha, overcome. Paraya means strong. It's not the Hindi paraya. This paraya here is very strong. Kripaya here is not mercy. Kripaya here is to be taken as raga, attachment. Normally, kripa means compassion, but in this context, kripa means attachment. And so, kripaya paraya avishtaha. You can see there are two avagrahas over there. So you have to drop the two avagrahas and it becomes kripaya paraya avishtaha. So overcome by strong raga, strong attachment. Okay. Now here, remember, this does not mean that the warrior, because we are on the battlefield, okay, so this does not mean that the warrior cannot have compassion. So that compassion is called kripa. So in the battlefield, there is this tradition that you can fight, in the traditional battlefield, okay, not in today's battlefield. Traditional battlefield, you can fight your enemy as long as he is capable of fighting you back. If he gets hurt, if he becomes incapable of fighting, then you are supposed to walk away. You cannot choose to kill him or hurt him further because he's already hurt. That's one of the rules of the battle. And that quality of choosing not to kill a person when he is no longer capable of fighting, that quality is kripa. Okay. But remember, in this kripa, you are exercising a choice not to kill. But supposing this is not really compassion, but it is attachment so strong that you become helpless and unable to fight back, that becomes parakripa. That is what is we talked about here. Parakripa, that strong compassion, the strong attachment. Because why is it no longer a virtue? Because it is no longer your strength. It has become an enemy because it has bound you. And if you have to take this to our lives, remember that compassion is the positive emotion, the virtue of a jnani, but it does not bind him. Whereas attachment is the weakness of an ajnani, which causes him problems. Therefore, this we discussed in the first few classes also. Compassion is a virtue. attachment is a weakness. And therefore, whenever you say compassion, know that it belongs to the wise person, to the jnani. And whenever that compassion becomes so strong that it becomes an obstacle for you, then know that it is attachment and it belongs to the ajnani. And here, Arjuna is not a jnani because he has been overpowered by the emotion. And therefore, kripa should be translated as ragaha, attachment. He is not the master of the emotion, but the emotion itself has become his master. And this is the difference between the emotion of a jnani and the emotion of a ajnani. The jnani has emotions, but he is the master of them. The ajnani has emotions, but he is the slave of that emotion. So for the jnani, the emotion is a willfully considered conscious emotion, which has been run through the filter of the intellect. And therefore, the emotion will always be under the guidance of the intellect. But for ajnani, the emotion is not an action. It is an unconscious reaction. And therefore, he uses the term avishtha. Avishtha means overpowered. So in our lives also, we all know that there have been times when we have used anger as a tool, as a conscious tool. Like if you are wanting to make a point and that point is not being made, and sometimes at some time or the other in our life, even though we are not angry, we have faked the anger using it as a tool so that other person thinks you are angry, but you are actually in control. So if you are using the anger, what is the difference? You are free to take the anger at will and you can drop it whenever you will. So the question to be asked is, can I, drop my anger whenever I want? Can I postpone the reaction of the anger? And if you say yes, then the anger is a tool in your hand. It has not overpowered you. Similarly, there also, any emotion, if you are able to drop it purely by the strength of your intellect, then for you, that emotion is a tool. But here, Arjuna has been overpowered. So, kripaya avishtha. He is overpowered by that fundamental problem which we talked about. What is that? Ragaha. And once a person is overcome by ragaha, what will happen? The immediate consequence is vishidam. That's why the next word is vishidam idam abravit. Vishidam means grief or sorrow. Idam means this. Abravit. Idam abravit means spoke the following words. Okay. So he's talking about Arjuna. He's saying that kripaya avishtaha vishidan idam bravit. This is all connected to the previous verses. The previous verses are the base, are the events because of which Arjuna was subject to strong emotion. And therefore, what are the previous verses? He saw all his Pitrun, Acharyan, Matulan, Bhatarun, all the people he saw. And he realized that they were all going to die at his hands. And therefore, he was seriously overcome by emotion. And therefore, Kripaya Paraya Avishtaha. He became emotionally compromised. And having become emotionally compromised, then what happened is that Idam, so he says Vishidam. Vishidam means he became very sorrowful because Paraya Avishtaha, because of the strong emotion, he became sorrowful. And then Idam Bravit. He spoke the following words. So remember that this verse marks the turning point in chapter 1. So before this, what was Arjuna? He was all ready for battle. So now the whole thing has changed. Arjuna's entire emotional attitude has changed. Earlier he was angry Arjuna. Now he is the sorrowful Arjuna. Earlier he was rational Arjuna. Now he has become the emotional Arjuna. Earlier he was the soldier, the warrior Arjuna. Now he has become the samsari Arjuna. This is the first stage of the chapter. And in it, these three stages are very important philosophically for us. Soldier, samsari, and the third stage is disciple. Everyone has to go through these three stages. Remember that as a soldier, you are doing your duty. As a samsari, you have been affected by the emotion. And the third stage is the sadhaka, the disciple. When you have decided that, yes, I am not able to handle this problem and therefore I need a teacher. This we discussed in great detail in the beginning of the chapter, which was, we discussed how this transformation took place. Anyway, we will be again discussing it in chapter 2, but currently just remember that these are the three stages of our progress in life. At one point of time, we are doing what we have to do without too much emotional problem. So that is the soldier part. He is doing his duty. Then for some reason, some attachment, very strong attachment comes in and we lose our mental focus and then we are subject to depression and sorrow and all that. So we become samsari. And here one learns that when you are samsari, the thing to do is to find a guru. So remember that Arjuna had developed attachment. This attachment which Arjuna is now showing, it has not come about in the last half an hour or so, right? This attachment to these people, to Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya, it was already there. But it was not an obvious attachment. I mean, it was there hidden in his mind. When does it suddenly explode? When he sees these people and he sees that it is possible that I will have to kill them. Therefore, the possibility of losing the objects of attachment arises. And then alone, that intense attachment which has been hidden before, that surfaces. That is the problem. Okay. So here, any questions before we move on to the next stage? I'll just unmute you all. You all can unmute and ask. So one stage is over. Now second stage is about to start.
Sir,
Yeah.
what does the soldier's stage refer to? I don't
That is
understand
a time when you have not really got into, any attachment as such. You're doing your duties.
So you're a samsari then also, no?
You are a samsari then, but that attachment or that emotions have not crippled you because they are lying dormant. It is only when that emotion becomes active that you get crippled. And that is what is being meant here. Until this stage, Arjuna was all set to fight. But what happened? Because he saw these people and realized that he's going to kill them. That's why I said that attachment to these people did not suddenly develop. It was already there, but it was dormant. Seeing these people, that triggered off the attachment. And therefore, he became unable to function as a warrior. That is the samsara part. He became miserable, he became sorrowful, he threw away his bow and arrow. All that is being represented here in this chapter quite beautifully.
There's some sound is
It's
coming
kind
from
of, sorry. So the follow-up question was, so it's kind of similar to what happens in society, right? In that way, like,
Absolutely.
because till such time you're able to just do your duty and not ask questions, then you're not really affected.
Yes. But when something strong emotion comes up, then there is a problem.
So
Sir,
you can't,
can we
is
relate
it also
this?
sort of like you can't escape that stage for too long? Is that what it means?
You should be able to recognize that you are in that stage. Once you can recognize that, then you can come out easily.
Right. Thank you.
Sir, does this correspond to the different ashrams, the brahmachari and
Not really,
grihastha?
not really. This is actually a person who has come out of the brahmacharya ashram and is in the grihastha. This whole thing is revolving around the grihastha. So brahmacharya ashram, you are a student, right? You are not really subject to making decisions and all that. Your only job is to study. But grihastha ashram, you
Yes,
have
no.
duties. It is only when
No, I was
grihastha ashram
thinking
comes.
about not in the brahmacharya avastha, you're not emotionally reacting to situations. You're mostly detached, kind of.
Yeah, that is because your Gurukula is such that you have a focus for your studies only. You're not supposed to be having any duties excepting what the Guru tells you. So that it's really, there's no independent, not much of independent activity going on. So these problems don't affect you. That is why in school and college, we are all, quite happy-go-lucky. It is only when you step out into the world and have to handle problems that these issues arise.
Pranam Raviji, I have a small, need
Yes,
some
sure.
small clarification. And disciple stage, you mean that we will lose or we let go of all the attachment and all the commitment, or how it is?
So the disciple stage is the stage which will come in chapter 2. The stage is that you first, when a problem comes, what do? You first try to solve. First of all, you have to recognize that you got a problem, right? A lot of people never even understand that they have a problem. Moment you recognize that you have a problem, then what is the first thing? I try to deal with it myself. And when I'm not able to deal with it myself, then I look for help, isn't it? So that looking for help is the disciple stage. Here, of course, the problem is that of Atma Jnanam, and therefore he looks for a guru. But any worldly problem, you always go to a person who can help you out if you are not able to handle the problem yourself. That is what is meant. That is the third stage, the disciple stage.
Thank you, Raviji.
Ravi,
Yeah.
Like what you said in the beginning, Arjuna did not know that he has got a problem until he saw his Pitru
Absolutely.
Pautra, everybody.
Absolutely. So you can
And
have a problem without knowing that you have one. That is in a unactivated state, which all of us have. Okay, this unactivated problem is there for all of us in terms of Raga Dvesha. It is the trigger which brings the problem on.
now, if we see before he saw all his grandfather, everybody, he was very sure of war.
Yes.
And after the complete Gita, he is again very sure of war.
Yes.
Expression is similar, but the understanding behind it is very different.
Understanding is completely different. So the problem, basic problem, has been sorted out. Okay. Right.
Om Acharyaji.
Yes, Apurvaji, boliye.
Acharyaji, you said for a problem in an unactivated state, you use the word agavesha.
Sorry?
You used a terminology agavesha for unactivated state, problem in an unactivated stage.
No.
Oh, I misheard it, sorry.
No, nothing like that. The problem in the unactivated state is something which is present as a potential problem, but has not really blown up. It's like you caught some sort of a infection or the bacteria is there in your body, but you don't know because it has not turned into fever. Some infection you picked up somewhere, some bacteria came in and you don't know. So you don't take any, you are not even conscious of the fact that there is this particular bacteria in your body. When do you become conscious? When symptoms begin to exhibit themselves. And that is what is being said here. That raga there was already there, but he was not conscious of it. It was triggered by the realization that all these people who he is facing, people whom he respects, they will have to die. That is the trigger.
Thank you.
So Acharya ji, sorry, just one last question. Are we saying that every time we face a problem, we can choose to be in any one of the three situations, or are we referring to a big major problem that happens in life? That what situation, what phase are you going to be in?
I don't think you can make a choice about certain situations. Like the soldier thing is before the problem. So since you don't know there's a problem, there is no exercise of choice at all. What are you going to choose? You don't know there's a problem. So you continue to do your duties. Then the samsari thing, you understand there is a problem. So the initial reaction from all of us is that we try to sort out this problem ourselves. To take the example I gave, when the first round of I get a low fever, what do? Do I straight away go to a doctor? No. I just swallow a couple of paracetamol tablets and I wait.
Right.
And second day nothing happens, fever doesn't go, third day fever doesn't go, then I say, okay, I can't sort it out myself. So therefore, let me go to a doctor. It's the same sequence. The choice is available at samsari stage. Usually nobody exercises the choice because the first obvious thing is to sort it out yourself.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now we look at verse number 28. No, actually verse number 28, 29, 30 and 31, they're all interconnected. So just let's chant this 28th verse. This is now Arjuna. And this has to be connected to Arjuna spoke. Arjuna uvacha. Drishtvevam swajanam Krishna. Yuyutsam samupasthitam. Sidanti mama gatrani. Mukham cha parishusyati. So here Arjuna is talking to Krishna and he is saying that, hey Krishna, there are certain symptoms being exhibited by me. Okay, so this is the second stage, samsari stage. So look at the words. Drishtvevam swajanam Krishna yutsam samupasthitam. So drishtva imam swajanam Krishna. Drishtva ivam swajanam Krishna yuyutsum sam upasthitam. So drishtva eva, having seen swajanam, my own people or our own people, yuyutsum. Yuyutsum means these own people, they are all ready to fight. They are all wanting to fight. So yuyutsu is something like mumukshu. Mumukshu is a special word. It's called the desiderative format. It's a format of a verb wanting to do what the verb says. Okay, so here yodhum ichuhu, the one who wants to fight. Desiderative format. So yodhum ichuhu, the one who wants to fight. That is yutsu. So you see, all these people who are in front of me, they want to fight. They are all about to fight. They have gathered here for what purpose? For wanting to fight only. And therefore he says, sam upasthitam. They have all gathered here with only one ichha. That ichha is what? To fight. So this is what is being said. And sidanti mama gatrani. Sidanti mama gatrani means that sidanti means having lost. Mama is mine. Gatrani is the limbs. So Drishtvevam sajanam Krishna yuyutsam samupasthitam sidanti mama gatrani mukham cha parishusyati. There's one more line. Vepatuscha sharire me roma harshascha jayate. Okay, so first let us look at this line. Sidanti mama gatrani. I have lost the strength in my limbs. So gatram is the limbs, hands and legs, all that. Sidanti means having lost, from the root sad, to go away, to be destroyed. Mama is mine. So sidanti mama gatrani, my limbs have gone very weak. Then mukham, the mouth. Parishusyati, the mouth has gone dry. Then vepatuscha, vepaha means to tremble. Vepatuscha sharire me, my body is trembling. And roma harshascha jayate. Roma harsha is literally the when you are very frightened and your hair stands up. That is called roma harshana, the standing up of the hair because of fright. Jayate is born. So roma harshascha jayate means the fright has been born. My hairs are all standing up. So if you want to arrange that in Anvaya, it will be Mama Gatrani Siddhanti. Chidanti. My limbs are losing their strength. Mukham cha parishusyati. My mouth has gone dry. Me sharire vepathuhu. My body is trembling. Roma harshaha jayate. This hair of mine is all standing up, which means what? I am very, very frightened. Okay. We'll do one more verse before we stop, though we have only a few minutes. So I'll unmute you and we will just chant verse number 30. There's not much of explanation, so it is fine to chant that. Gandivam samsrate hastat.
Gandivam
Samsrate
Tvakkeva paridahyate. Nacha shaknomyavasthatum. Brahmativa cha me manaha. Okay. So, Gandivam samsrate hastat. Tvak cha eva paridahyate. Na cha shaknomi avasthatum. Brahmati eva cha me manaha. Let's put them into sentences. Gandivam hastat samsrate. So Gandiv is the bow, Arjuna's bow. Samsrata means fall. That is the derivation of the term samsara. Okay, samsrata, that which has fallen, that into which you fall. So Gandivam hastat samsrate. The Gandiv, the bow, has fallen from my hand. So Arjuna is telling Krishna, I am so terrified, so sorrowful that the bow has fallen from my hand. And tvak eva paridahyate. My skin, tvak, paridahyate, is very dry. And then na shaknomi avasthatum. I cannot even stand. Avasthatum here is taken as standing. I cannot even stand. And me manaha brahmati evacha. My mind is as if thoroughly confused. Okay. So this is a description of what is happening to him. That he is standing there. His mind is thoroughly confused. His, in the previous three verses actually, from 26 to 28, if you see Vyasacharya, in his beautiful verses, he has shown the problem of raga and dvesha, which is coming up. And this is being mentioned over here. So to understand these verses properly, we have to take all these verses together. That is 27, 28, 28, 29, 30 and 31. So we have yet to do 31 and we don't have enough time for that. So I'll stop here. The next class will start with 31 and then we will go over the word by word explanation of 29 to 31. But on the whole, there's nothing philosophical here. It is only Arjuna expressing that he is very terrified. He is very sorrowful.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Shakno me avasthatum.
Shakno means not possible.
Shakno means?
Not possible. Na shakya nahi hai. That is shaknomi. Avasthatum is to stand. So shaknomi and avasthatum, I am not able to stand also, he says.
Thank you.
So here, generally, what is being said is that I am not in a position to fight Krishna because I am so terrified of all these things. And my mind is completely not focused because of this deep attachment. So please tell me what to do. This is what is being put forward here. So any questions? Others we can stop for the day.
Om Raviji.
Yeah.
So all the physical, whatever the description of his, his limbs are without energy and he's tired, and all this can be kind of described as an anxiety attack. That's that can be related to what's today.
Absolutely.
So
these exact symptoms which happen to a person who's under a very severe anxiety attack.
right. So say if I get this kind of an anxiety attack, is that really rooted by the attachments and the fear that is actually going through?
Of course, any anxiety is an emotion. Emotions are dependent upon your attachments, likes and dislikes. Anything which is any sort of emotion will finally you can trace it back to your likes and dislikes.
So it's not actually, if you really look at it, it's not actually a medical condition, but it is a psychological.
Anxiety attack is always psychological condition. When you use, when you're using, medicines to treat it, you're only treating the symptoms. You are not treating the cause. The cause lies in the mind.
So the person who's going through this should really look into his or her attachments first.
It's not very easy, okay? It has to be.
That
is why first people who normally have studied Vedanta for a very long time, they are usually free of very strong emotions.
I have kind of attended the entire of one round of Tattva Bodha classes, which has really helped me with this particular the attachment towards self and towards people. So should I think I should just go through the same again and again and again so that I can kind of.
Yeah, Tattva Bodha is more or less an overview. But that's why it's called a Prakarana Grantha. It doesn't go into the intricacies. But the Gita goes, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, all you'll find the entire first 6 chapters are addressing the problem of Raga Dvesha only, addressing your mind. And that is why we take such a long time to complete 6 chapters, because usually we take more than 1.5 years to finish the first 6 chapters, or even 2 years sometimes. And then you will find that things have improved, because by that time, that regular, what you call dwelling on those concepts, they are internalized. And once they're internalized, things become easier for us.
Yeah, I feel that, I mean, now that all your classes are on YouTube, I mean, just going through these classes on a daily basis would really help me to kind of go totally into that.
That was the purpose of, putting it on YouTube this time, so that anytime you want, you can just traveling or doing something, just listen.
Yes. Thank you so much, Raviji.
So thank you guys. With this, we'll stop. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva
Om Shanti Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Acharya. Thank you, Ravi.